we're gonna do it again. Why not? That'll be a good way to spend the morning. It was yesterday, but bear with me real quick because I do need to do my couple little tests, test the sound, see how it is. There he is. Nice. He's live, everyone. Hip hip hooray. Oh, yeah. Sounds good. All right, let's check the music. See how it is sounding. Sorry, I gotta try to not suck on this lozenge so annoyingly. How's that music coming through? Well, it's just me for now. Okay, yeah, we're good. Nice. Okay, so mute you. We don't want an echo from you. Okay, cool. Happy Tuesday, everyone. That, for those of you still trying to dial in those planets to the days, that means today is ruled by Mars. So that's why I wear a red shirt and a red nail polish. Just kidding, I don't have any nail polish. That doesn't mean I wouldn't. All right. So, before we start today, I'm thinking I might hit us with a quick little oracle reading of sorts. So I'm gonna bust out this little right here. Now these are Catholic prayer cards, and I like to use them as a little bit of an oracle. So we'll give them a quick shuffle and see what the Holy Spirit wants us to pray on before we start this reading up. All right, split you and boom. Okay, that's the Mother of Sorrows. Prayer to the Mother of Sorrows. O Mother of Sorrows, by the anguish and love with which thou didst stand at the cross of Jesus, stand by me in my last agony. Cross of Jesus, stand by me in my last. Oh, I, I, I read that part. To thy maternal heart, I commend the last 3 hours of my life. Offer these hours to the eternal Father, in union with agony of our dearest Lord, in atonement for my sins. Offer to the eternal Father the most precious blood of Jesus, mingled with your tears on Calvary, that I may obtain the grace of receiving Holy Communion with the most perfect love and contrition before my death, and that I may breathe forth my soul in the adorable presence of Jesus. Dearest Mother, when the moment of my death has at length come, present me as your child to Jesus. Ask him to forgive me for having offended him, for I know not what I did. Beg him to receive me into his kingdom of glory, to be united with him forever. Amen. Sick. All right. That might hit a little bit different for my fellow Kabbalists out there. And it's probably, I might just hit regardless, irregardless. So much love. There we go. So the Mother of Sorrows has blessed us as we enter in those kingdoms of death, which we are ever entering, right? As we learned from our cosmic doctrine study this past weekend, we got 7 types of death, not just one. So, thank you, Blessed Mother of Sorrows. Now, on to the good stuff. Let's get these talismans going, huh? Speaking of which, okay. So yeah, I'm excited for this one. It's going to be more on the astral light, chapter 5. Thinking we could probably knock out at least 2 more chapters today. No Illuminati meetings today, but I do need to go work. And right now, it's slow, but it will be busy probably by the time we get 2 chapters finished. So that's the plan. Anybody else who's at work, I hope you're having a great shift. If you're not at work, I just hope you're having a great day. Unless Mother Nature prescribed for you a crap day, then you better quit resisting. So, chapter 5, more on the astral light. Previously, you were given knowledge about talismans in general, and then knowledge about the power that makes talismans work. It was explained as best it could be in the time and space available that this power was the power of all powers, and this power underlays all things that exist in this physical cosmos. Further, it was explained that this power had been contacted and discovered, and explored in part by many occult big shots in the past history of this world. Each of these big shots, Paracelsus, Archaeus, or Liquor Vitae, Eliphas Levi, Astral Light. Oh, okay. That's what Paracelsus called it, was Archaeus or Liquor Vitae. Eliphas Levi called it Astral Light. Anton Mesmer, Magnetic Field, had given the power a different name, with no reference to a previous name. I am, no modesty needed, the only one who has ever mentioned this multiple naming to my knowledge. If you know of any other occult teachers saying that the inner power was given different names by different people, please let me know what set it and where. Now that one I don't know off the top. So yeah, if anybody's been up on some books like that, hit me up. Hit Ophiel up. I am going to digress a little here and tentatively state that the line of research I am following clairvoyantly seems to point to the startling conclusion that this solid Earth plane was formerly inner plane astral light, condensed and solidified. What was once light has now become solid Earth. Wow. Now I admit that this idea is far from clear in any details, but I am working on it. Now, to return to this inner power with all the names, I will use my favorite name, the astral light. There. The next piece of knowledge about the inner power is the fact that this inner power consists of 5 equal parts. Please note and learn this, as it is very important and figures in all occult work. In fact, I go so far as to say that these 5 parts have been dealt with in occult teachings for thousands of years. But before this, to my knowledge, it has never been taught that instead of being 5 separate forces, they are really synthesized into one. It is true, however, that these 5 forces can be separated and studied one at a time, and to a large extent do function in turn. Not all at once, simultaneously, but each in turn. That is why you will meet them, or that is the way you will meet them, and is probably the reason why their 5-fold unity was not previously suspected or seen clearly. They and the astral light, with all its names, were considered different things entirely. Please reread and restudy the above material, as it is very different from ordinary physical material earth plane ideas, as understood by people. It is not hard only to clearly expound, and it is not difficult, just different. If you will ponder these concepts, you will respond to them in time. Remember also my first book, The Art and Practice of Astral Projection. If you will study this book and learn some degree of projection, as soon as you project even a little, you will see the astral light. You will see the astral light for yourself, as the inner planes are full of astral light. In fact, that is all that is in them. There is, I repeat, nothing else existing in the inner planes but the astral light. But don't believe because I say so. Study the material and discover for yourself. please doubt me and everyone else until you know it yourself, until you see the astral light yourself. Amen, Ophiel. I couldn't agree more with that. Do the stuff. Do the stuff. So that way you know it's true. Not just because your favorite YouTuber or TikToker or book says so. Do the stuff. Find out for yourself. In fact, approach it skeptically. If anything, approach it like this is a bunch of BS. Might make it hit harder if you do. All right. Let's continue. Since in the inner planes the astral light is all there is, let us proceed on the theory. A theory is a sort of framework idea which appears to be true and allows for further development of more expanded ideas on whatever subject you are considering. That out here on the physical plane, everything is condensed astral light. You have had some of this before, but don't let that worry you. Just go over it again and note the additions. This possibility being so, you should find all the 5 parts of the astral light present there on the condensed, hardened physical plane, and they are. It may seem to you that we have wandered from this book's subject of talismans, but it is not so. All will be tied together sooner or later. Don't ever get impatient with Ophiel. Every word has its place. To resume, it is not my purpose to hustle you to buy my books only, when I must say to you, as I do now, that I am going to refer to material I have already written. I just can't keep reprinting the past data in each new book. Obviously, I write a book and record a mass of data material, and then, as in this book, I build further on this past recorded material. I'm sorry, but I don't know what to do other than to assume you have the other books. Well, luckily for me and at least a handful of people here, we have. Everyone else, yeah, I would suggest catching up. His books are all they're really not that long, pretty quick reads. I mean, his reading style or his writing style can be a little, I don't know, kind of a little scattered at times, but it is still mostly pretty good information. There's a few times where I know I've found myself being like, what the heck? But that doesn't mean that there's still not really good, valuable information that you can make practical. You feel me? Welcome in if you're just coming in. Good to see you. Good to have you here. Okay. Now, I repeat, the 5 parts of the astral light do come down to the physical plane and are embodied there in outward frozen form for all to see and study. But up till now, the spark of enlightenment is not lit. The knowledge is just so different from what we are accustomed to that it takes work to grasp the different concepts. And then still more work to put them into practice. The names of the 5 divisions of the astral light are really quite simple sounding, so much so that they can deceive you into ignoring them and their power potentials, which is what was intended. Nothing in the occult is outward, plain, and simple, except in appearance. All deeper truths are hidden or covered, and you must dig them out for yourself. And that's one way that you can tell who's really doing it, who's really, they say real recognize real, right? Well, there you go. Yeah, that's why you can tell, because some of these people who will just say the surface stuff, and again, like I said in the last stream, for anybody who doesn't know better, it still can sound a lot like, wow, oh my gosh, this person, but you ain't fooling the rest of us. Okay. I can help by presenting them and saying that something deeper is there. Go after it. But that is just about all. Please try yourself to get the deeper meanings. The deeper meanings are there. Believe me, they are there. The astral light consists of 5 parts as aforesaid, and the names of these parts are Akasha, ether, air, fire, water, and earth. Doesn't sound like much, does it? First alert. I refer to you I refer you now to page 53 of my book, The Art and Practice of the Occult, wherein I describe the elemental forces in one set of descriptions. Some slightly additional data is now going to be given on the same in a slightly different manner. So I'm going to grab that real quick because it's right here on my bookshelf. And let's see. Might as well. Oh, hi, sweet girl. All right, then. So, for those of you who weren't present for this, I highly recommend going back and checking out those videos, following along. Oh, follow along with this too. I linked to the PDFs this time. I did it before I popped on the stream. So, that should be in the description or in the comments. This one, it's in the description. Some of the other ones, it's in the comments. Okay, 53. Let's see what he has to say. He says, oh, what, do you want us to read the whole chapter, Ophiel? You said the page. Well, we'll go for it for just a second case. Huh? Welcome in if you're just coming in. Good to see you. Good to have you. Okay. He says, we will now return to our study of the elemental forces. As I said before, in this whole book, we are engaged in a study of the elemental forces and how to use them. I believe I will digress here for a moment and say again that while I said air is movement, ability to move, and movement is life, we are not, in this book, going to consider life, living life, as such. Consideration of living life, such as we are, would introduce complications which I could never handle in a book like this. So we will consider only the forces that make up the physical plane, world, cosmos, in which we exist, and leave the questions of our own personal life existence to another book. Elemental air is then the first manifestation of what is called matter, and next and last in our series studies. I wonder if that's what he wanted us to get then. Is that that's the first manifestation of matter. Oh, Phil. See what I mean about the scattered, man? See what I mean? I wasn't kidding. Well, that's all right. Luckily for you, you don't have to read it. You can just go listen to it in those other videos. So, anyhow, he says, although Akasha is first in order, we will study it last. The first elemental force we will study is the elemental force of air. These elemental forces are also called tattvas, a Hindu word. Air, the elemental force air, is not physical air, the kind we breathe, but is a deeper name for a force. All elemental forces are forces only. But here is a good place to say forces become forms, finally, in the end. Elemental air. Elemental air is elemental movement, elemental ability to move, elemental movability. Anything that moves by itself is alive. So the first evidence of life is movement. Okay. The symbol for air is a round circle colored blue against a background of orange. Each of the elemental forces has a symbol, a simple symbol, which can be considered a talisman. Elemental air apparently is movement, as said. Elemental means first in this case, and is the first manifestation of action on the physical plane. And this time, by physical plane, I mean everything manifested after Kether. It appears that I will have to digress here for a moment and explain some other part of our order. You see, if you should have made a circle symbol of elemental air as described before, you would have drawn a circle alone on a piece of paper or other material. You can perceive that this circle symbol, standing alone as it were, would have no confinement. Also, please realize at this point that all future talismans you make here on the physical plane first are duplicated on each inner plane up to the top. Therefore, you can see easily that while the outer physical circle drawing you made will not move, the inner plane creation will duplicate of the outer drawing on the inner planes will move, unless you confine it. You confine it by drawing a square and making a circle inside the square, thereby confining it on the inner planes. And the square is the symbol of the earth plane, or stability, as will be noted. So all the simple symbols coming up are drawn inside a square, symbolizing their connection to the physical earth plane and you. By you, I might add here that conversely, if for some reason you are making a talisman of a movable type, then you would use a circle as the outer boundary and not a square. This is only common sense. Now, to proceed, it is naturally true that when you construct a talisman in the future, and you want the talisman to be movable in its actions on the physical plane, then you will include a circle inside the square, next to the square, but enough of this for this time. The basic idea behind the circle is that simply a force starts out to move. The force starts out in a straight direction, and while the direction seems to be straight, if there exists the slightest deviation, the line will be bent and will come back on itself and join its starting point, becoming a circle. Just meditate on these symbols and let the knowledge seep into your being. That cosmic doctrine really does its thing, doesn't it? The next elemental force is fire, the symbol of which is a triangle with the point upward. The color of the triangle is red and the background color is green. The elemental force of fire is the force of expansion. You have expansion following movement. Movement can be static, but usually movement is followed by an outward movement called expansion. When you have increased movement, it leads to increased heat. And increased heat leads to still more movement and still more expansion. I've spoken before about a phrase much bandied about by occultists, as above, so below, which somewhat applies here. Down here, fast physical movement does result in heat, and so also does fast metaphysical movement result in metaphysical heat, which results in metaphysical expansion. Although, naturally, you will have to cognize this metaphysical action mentally. Look for it mentally. Your mental search can be very rewarding. In fact, this mental search is your occult education. Well, shoot. Welcome in. Welcome in. 63. To continue, symbol wise, the air circle spins and expands and bulges out at 3 points, and the circle becomes a triangle, the triangle of fire. After the initial impulse is exhausted in the formation of the triangle, or the change from air to fire, elemental force of air to elemental force of fire, the triangle begins to collapse. The top point caves in, and the triangle becomes a half moon. The symbol of water is a half moon, white with a black background, and the elemental force of fire changes into the elemental force of water, which is condensation. Please try to follow this process now mentally. And upon further condensation, the half moon squares itself out and becomes the stable square of the elemental force of Earth, a yellow square on a blue background. These, then, very briefly described, are the processes of which our physical plane world is created from. I repeat, the prime basic forces that constitute our physical plane. Naturally, it follows that when you construct a talisman for something on the physical plane to come to you, it has to come to you through the above processes and be connected in some way with all or one of the forces. Therefore, In a talisman you make, you should have one or all of these four symbols on the talisman, especially, as I said, the one force pertaining to the nature of the thing desired with the creation of the talisman. As I said in the beginning here, that there were five elemental forces, and so far have referred in detail only to four: air, fire, water, and earth. There is another elemental force called Akasha, which exists, but actually it is never used as such, either in talismans or in the occult, except under precise and rare conditions, which I don't know all about, and neither does anyone else that I know. I remember even Sister Shooty said that in Taught with Shooty, where she said about that Akasha Tatva is quote unquote dangerous and not really to be used other than by experts, however she worded it. Akasha is used only for works of elimination. Oh, I think I skipped that. He said in that, yeah, I did. Which doesn't mean that I am denigrating myself, just being sensible. Akasha is used only for works of elimination, clearing and cleaning up, even as might be said by imprecise thinkers, works of destruction. Don't worry about Akasha. You won't have any occasion to use it until a long period of your future development is past. And by that time, you will have enough development, hopefully, to safely understand its use and be governed accordingly. The preceding, then, are somewhat the basic ideas about your future construction of talismans to help you through life, to aid you in making a better and easier living for yourself and others you may wish to assist too. I hope you are not disappointed in these teachings so far. I hope you are not going to be upset with me for not just giving you a lot of diagrams, drawings labeled for so and such, and you take your pick, what you need or want, and just go ahead and reproduce slash draw it. And if I will start working, and it will start working for you instantly. I wish I could do this, and I hope if this is what you have done in the past, that your desires were strong enough to get some results. But I can assure you that behind the veil of our personal world's view curtain lie the powers that govern slash rule this world. And when you learn to know them, contact them, connect them up yourself, you are on the way to having it made. And I mean it. Try it. You have nothing to lose but your chains. See Tarot card 15. And anyone not familiar with the tarot, that's the Devil card, where he's got the two people chained up. Okie dokie. As I said previously, that the elemental forces were behind the whole physical plane. Dion Fortune says, and I repeat, that what she described, these forces, constituted the machinery of the universe. I request you to begin to think this way always, that the elemental forces are the working, functioning powers, the building powers of the universe, and you are now familiar with them, or a little joke. You are now on speaking terms with the powers that be. The following is a little difficult for me to postulate very clearly in the limited space available here. Should take 20 or 30 thick books, and other writers would, but let's try to get it. The forces you have been studying are not only behind all the material universe, they show themselves right on through out into the end physical plane. So you can start looking for their signatures right now, all around you, and then mentally reconvert these outer manifestations back into inner beginnings, and hence enlarge your talisman making power and knowledge. Welcome in if you're just coming in. Good to see you. Good to have you. Let us consider the first elemental force, air. You know that the symbol of for elemental air, excuse me, you know that the symbol 4 elemental force of air is a round circle, or just round, or circle, or round circle. You know that air is movable and or is the symbol of movement on the inner planes. So, when the elemental force of air reaches this hard, fixed outer plane, I said it would show itself out there plainly. And it does, doesn't it? Are not all earth moving thing are not all earth moving things around? Too simple, you say? Better think again. All moving wheels or gears or shafts are round. Did you ever see a square wheel? Yeah, I've definitely seen a few people with some square wheels, I'll tell you that. All surfaces that are concerned with movement on this plane are rounded. Some of them may not have been so rounded in the, but the tendency today is to round or air streamline all moving things. I'll say. The appearance of the elemental force of fire is not so plain, unless you got a candle burning next to you like me right now. Is not so plain on this physical plane, but you know it is there. So you look for it. I'll give you a few hints. The inside of an automobile engine cylinder within is subject to the action of fire. Right, because for those who don't know, there's basically a miniature explosion, tons of them going on in your engine all the time. That's part of what makes it run. That's it is that combustion. In time, the cylinder becomes. Thanks, Dad. In time, the cylinder becomes tapered like a slight triangle due to this fire effect. Also note that flames of fire are triangular shaped. Also note how fire expands from a little triangle flame to a larger, larger, larger flame. The material effect of water is another element that is not too easy to see. So it is also a good exercise for you to develop yourself. I won't be here always. I will note one water effect to get you started. When a stream of water makes a river or creek bed for itself, the ensuing shape of the riverbed is like the shape of the element of water. Now you find some more. Hint: examine some rocks along shorelines where waves beat on the rocks. The final effect of the element of earth on the earth plane is too obvious. All stable things are square: houses, buildings, most physical and things. You take it from there. Right? This book, this stand the book is on, nice and square, huh? That prayer card from earlier. Well, I mean, they're a little more rectangular, but that's closer to a square than it is to a circle or a triangle or a crescent moon. Okie dokie. Now come the planets. The planets and the gods and goddesses they represent are combinations of elemental forces. For this knowledge, please see my book, The Art and Practice of the Occult, which is loaded with occult dynamite. But don't blow yourself up. The zodiac, which is a matter of positions between yourself and the cosmos, is also due to different degrees between yourself and the positions of the various planets and the forces they represent, which have an effect upon each of us according to the position's degrees, as aforesaid. This part comes under the study of astrology, not only of the birthday position, but by the day by day progressions of the planetary elemental forces. There is a book, Nature's Finer Forces, by Rama Prasad, which you probably should have. It is one of the few books on a type of magic ever issued by the Theosophical Society that contains some practical knowledge about interplane things. I owe a debt to this book, and I think you will find it helpful, although you have to do a lot of reading between the lines and struggle with his English expression translation. Ramaprasad claims in this book that every hour is a period of the day, according to the time of year, the season, whether long days, short nights, short days, long nights. If you care to study the elemental forces that far out from astrological periods, to days of the week, to hours of the day, in time you could become sensitive enough to know by inner feeling just which elemental force is ruling the particular moment you are in. Samantha, I3H, hello and welcome. It's good to have you here. I'm going to check something real quick. I don't know how, you know what, I'll figure it out. I realized yesterday I was on a different account, and so that was probably why I couldn't pin up the message, like pull it up in the on the screen. But I still gotta go search and research that a little bit more. But welcome. It's good to have you here. Okay. Yeah, so right now I'm pretty sure we're still in the planetary hour of Venus, but today is ruled by Mars. So that's a pretty good little combo platter. Those are lovers, man. Those are like phew, serious lovers in our moon. Let's see, we were just moon in Leo, but I know we were like cusping right as I started this, going into Virgo. Yeah, we're moon in Virgo now. So there you go. There's certain elemental forces present right now. Do you feel it? Okay, the preceding knowledge slash information is not all by any means of the amount available about the inner plane forces that rule this outer plane, but it should be enough to enable you to get started. Learn every bit of this knowledge, and as soon as you learn it, it should begin to work for you. This is the main difference between Ophiel's teaching slash writings and the others you have heard of before. To repeat, the living working is the difference, and you should notice it. I once observed a watch repairman as he assembled a watch. He lifted the last piece, which had the balance wheel on it, and as he dropped it onto and into the watch, the balance wheel, as soon as it hit the bottom of the inside of the watch core, started to work, started to run, turn. This instantaneous functioning surprised me, as I had thought the man would at least have to turn the whole watch sideways several times to get it started. Well, friends and students, this is a perfect example of the way this occult knowledge works, at least with me, and it should with you. As soon as you grasp the knowledge mentally, it should start to work. I will repeat the above in a slightly different way. Dear students, as soon as you grasp the idea slash knowledge of and about the existence and the power of the astral light, its power should start to become available to you automatically and knowingly at once instead of just hit and miss, as we all use it now all the time. Yeah, I got a good example of proof that that works for everyone at least a little bit all the time. The fact that so many of these people out here have a driver's license. Oh goodness, at least if your city's anything like mine. Oh boy, wow. That's proof that magic works right there. Otherwise, I don't see how the heck they passed that driver's test. Anyway, I will repeat the above in a slightly different way. I'll tell you how, because nature too. So quit resisting. Dear students, I already read that. I'm going to conclude this section with one of the translations of the message on the emerald. There are a number of translations, all slightly different, but none different enough to make any difference. I am not too sure as to the real history of this message, or the story about an actual message on an actual emerald, but I'll tell it the way I heard it. Many centuries ago, some great teacher, at least an adept, and he must also have been rich, caused an occult message to be given out. The message was engraved on a large gem, an emerald. I do not know where the stone is now, or if the above is really true. So take the story as it is given to you. Whatever the true story of its origin is, the fact remains that the message itself is pure occult dynamite. Here's the message with a few simple comments. True, without falsehood, certain and most true. That which is above is as that which is below, and that which is below is as that which is above. For the performance of the miracles of one thing. Okay, I'm gonna read it. So I'm gonna read this two ways because Ophiel likes to put his little brackets in there and his little commentary. So, true without falsehood, certain and most true. That which is above is the same as that which is below. That below apparently means all the physical world, and that above apparently means the inner planes as I described them. And that which is below is as that which is above, for the performance of the miracles of the one thing. The one thing here means the astral light, and its changes and transformations do seem like miracles to the ordinary human material way of looking at the world. And as all things are from one, by the mediation of one, so all things have their birth from this one thing by adaptation. The word mediation here was not so clear to me until I checked the dictionary. Here, mediation also seems to mean that the one is the source, the raw source, and the one is also the force that causes the change from the raw source to the earth plane products called all things, physical things. This double idea sounds a little strange, but it is consistent with the nature of the astral light, which is changeable and is also all. The following are definitions of mediate. 1. To interpose between parties in order to reconcile them. 2. To reconcile differences. 3. To effect by action as an intermediary. 4. To bring accord out of action as an intermediary. 5. To act as intermediary agent in bringing, affecting, or communicating. As you can see, all these definitions fit in here very nicely to explain the action of the astral light in its many parts slash actions slash functions. The astral light is truly all in all. The astral light is the beginning and the end of all things. The astral light is the raw material of the beginning, the planner, worker, laborer of the middle, and the substance of the end product. All in one. Hmm. Believe that, huh? Maybe that's why that flash of light, that lightning flash, that 777 that comes down the tree of life, huh? Maybe that makes a little more sense for some people now. Good. Okie dokie. One sec, sorry. All right, cool. Let us continue. The sun is its father, the moon its mother, the wind carries it in its belly. The nurse, its nurse is the earth. The sun is considered a male as an operator per se. The moon is considered a female as an operator per se. The sun is electric, giving out power to make magnetic, and the moon is magnetic, receiving power to be magnetic. The electric offers work, the magnetic puts out work. Electric power runs through the wires of an electric motor, and there, in those wires, changes to magnetism, which magnetic force does work. I must confess that I do not quite follow clearly the meaning of the word belly referred to here. Wind is air, elemental air, movement. A belly is a place where materials are taken in and then digested or changed into other forms. In this case, I'd presume the result of a male action reacting on the female takes place in a belly. Or instead of belly, the word could be womb. Certainly, the developing child slash object does move, which is movement. And development is movement. And a womb is in the vicinity of the belly. After the it thing referred to before is born, then the it thing is born onto the earth, which earth then becomes a kind of a nurse or sustainer. Please ponder this message and the fragmentary meanings I have suggested so far, and get some more for yourself. You will have to grasp these things for yourself, and you can. They then become yours. This is the Father of all perfection, or consummation, in the whole of the world. Its power is integrating, if it be turned into earth. This power makes all things equal, that is, all earth things equal. Your directions for use. You shall separate the earth from the fire. Elemental force of earth consists partly of the elemental force of fire. See page 66 of The Art and Practice of the Occult. The subtle from the gross, suavely and with great ingenuity. Subtle, of course, means finer, inner, and gross outer means large or coarse. Suavely and with ingenuity means intelligently and cleverly, using knowledge carefully and accurately. It ascends from earth to heaven and descends again to earth and receives the power of the superiors and all the inferiors. The meaning of the pronoun it in this case stands for the object desired, the physical changes necessary to bring the object to you. Which object? Which object you do not have in your possession now, and also the process necessary to bring all this about. See all of my book, The Art and Practice of Getting Material Things Through Creative Visualization. This process starts here on earth and goes on up and into the inner planes, considered by many persons as up there or heaven. Then, when the inner plane work is done, it comes on back down the inner planes and fructifies on this earth plane. The inferiors are the beginning powers you use to start this operation. The small powers that we all possess now and use in our small daily ways. But these small inferior powers are connected to the inner higher superior powers that exist in the expanded inner planes. So thou hast the glory of the whole world. Therefore, let all obscurity flee before thee. The physical plane is just as sacred as any other plane, although we are generally taught that this physical plane is a vale of tears, and Christianity has held out the hope that the next one will be better. Most all religions do this because they are ignorant of the meaning of the structure of the cosmos. So you let that obscurity about the nature of the cosmos leave you. When you know some truth about the cosmos and can work the whole outer world from the inner planes, then that achievement becomes earth glory. You can well appreciate and will appreciate. This is the strong force of all forces, overcoming every subtle and penetrating every solid thing. So the world was created. Hence, we're all wonderful adaptations of which this is the matter, all fairly clear. Therefore, I am called Hermes Trismegistus, having the three parts of the philosophy of the whole world. When you first use, even for the first time, and later, hopefully, master the threefold process of masterful creation slash handling of the inner plane forces down to earth here, you then become the I in the above. What I have to tell is completed concerning the operations of the sun. And this is the force you attach to talismans to make them work slash function. I didn't forget we are studying talismans. And thus ends chapter 5. Okay, I'm going to grab a drink because my other one's gone. And then we'll go ahead and do another chapter at least for now. For everyone who popped in on that first one, thank you. For everyone who's still here, rocking, thank you. What's up, you perfect cat? Okie dokie. Listen up, man. If y'all don't believe Ophiel that this Earth plane is divine, I got proof for you right here. Diet Coke. Ha ha. Boy, I'll come back for that. I'll tell you what, that's something worth coming back for. Them fizzy burps. You get them nice fizzy burps. Oh boy, that's oh man. That's almost as good as love making, I'll tell you. Really just about all of it's worth coming back for. We didn't why else would we come here in the first place? You know what I mean? Sure, it's like a school. It's a curriculum, all of that. But it's also an opportunity to what? Be human, to go watch a sunset, go watch a sunrise, to get punched in the face because a lot of you, oh man, I'll tell you, a lot of you really, it goes to show you never got punched in the face growing up. Okay. To go look at the mountains, to go drink a Diet Coke and get the fizzy burp, to go make some love, like quit resisting. But when it's time to die, it's time to die, baby. That's the time to despise the flesh. That's the time to despise the material. Not the whole rest of the time walking around here being Mr. or Mrs. Why can't I think of the word right now? Pessimist, but also the other one, not masochist. You know the one. You know the nihilist. That's the one. Okay. So chapter 6, the planes of the elements. The foregoing material was all laid out in some detail, and you may wonder where it was all leading up to and what connections the material has with talismans. The slash all talismans must embody slash picture these elemental forces in the created talisman itself. There it is, that fizzy burp, baby. Oh, yeah. First, let us review the properties of physical water. Physical water is not stable in that you can do much work with it. But on the other hand, the water itself is extremely stable as a compound. It is impossible to separate it easily. A keynote of the element of water is condensation, and I guess I forgot to mention it, but the keynote of earth, of course, is stability. Another very peculiar quality of water is that water takes the form of the vessel which holds it, which is very suggestive of the inner plane ideas of creative visualization, furnishing a model so that other forces can flow into that model, which forces do eventually act somewhat like water. As you know, water flows generally from a higher to a lower plane, and probably you can say on the inner planes that it does that too. It flows down from the upper planes to the lower planes. Water has currents in it, and it also has whirlpools. And as you know, most of the earth consists of water. Then, too, you must know that most of our body consists of water. Yep. And that really can give you a whole new perspective on that chapter from the Tao Te Ching, be like water. Now, the elemental force of water has qualities very similar to these of physical water. Again, I have treated this subject in my other books, but I will repeat some of it here. As in the case of physical water and the earth, the elemental force of water occupies a great deal of the inner plane space. In fact, it is sometimes called the astral plane. It is a very wide, big plane, but actually there is no wide or big anything there. We just have to use those English words to try to understand it. Coming down from higher planes is condensation or contraction. All things must contract in order to become stable. So your talisman must embody that force in it somewhere. There is another matter here that I believe I will speak of, although actually it doesn't seem to quite belong here. It does fit in somewhat, and it does have something to do with magical work. And in this book, I am trying to confine things to talismans and their actions. The inner planes are full of light. One of the first things that you will see when you enter the inner planes is light. There is a kind of mystery connection there because this light has never really been fully explained. I have looked and researched and tried to find something about it, but I could never find anything. So I had to go out on my own and had to meditate and contemplate on it and get what I could. It has come to me that this inner plane light, which also acts somewhat like water, is not really the elemental force of water, but is another force, which is a combination of all the other forces. This combination force has been called prana for many centuries by many Eastern religions, without, however, exactly explaining what they were talking about. Prana is the inner plane elemental forces, but in combination. Oh, well, we read that a little bit yesterday. Sunshine Chick, what up? Welcome. It's good to see you here. Hope you're having such a good day, and I hope you're having such a good start to the year. Okay, let's go on and continue after a quick little drink. Now, in essence, what you are attracting by the power that you put into your talisman is prana. Here I will digress for a moment. You may have noticed that in these books I do not claim to know all about everything that there is to know about the occult. I certainly didn't mean to imply, though, that I didn't know something about it. However, the critics have been quick to pounce upon my few little statements, and perhaps you might call them my admissions, wherein I said that the points were somewhat obscure and not completely plain, and that I wasn't completely sure, 1,000,000% sure about certain subjects. Again, as I say, I don't mean to imply that I don't know anything about the subject. I know just as much about the subject as anyone else in the world who has studied just as long as I have. I have never found these things in any books or conversations with any occultists. In fact, the occultists that I have questioned were really ignorant of these deeper occult ramifications. I am not really trying to build up a huge philosophy of the occult. I am trying to put down workable working rules. You might even call them empirical rules in a sense. But then they are not empirical either, because I do try to explain the background for the rules. I might add again to make this still clearer that I am not an automobile engineer. I am not an engineer of any kind. I am not even a mechanic. But none of these things prevent me from driving a car, and I consider myself quite a good driver. Yep, that's the problem. There's like a certain, I can't remember, there's like a certain percentage of people that, like, if you ask them, well, they believe that they're not just a good driver, but that a better driver than most, or not just intelligent, but more intelligent than the average person. That really says a little something in and of itself, huh? Okie dokie. But my driving does not depend upon my engineering ability. Still, in driving the car and in attempting to teach other people how to drive a car, I attempt to explain something about the background of the matter so that they won't be in complete ignorance of what they are doing and why they are doing it. Many years ago, and now you can see how dated I am, a writer by the name of Mary Robert Reinhardt wrote a series of books about an elderly lady character named Tish. Excuse me. Of course, Mrs. Reinhardt's Tish is hopelessly outdated now, but she was considered quite hilarious in her day. In these stories about Tish, Tish learns to drive an automobile. She learns this way. She takes a pad and a pencil and writes down a list, something like 1, open door, 2, get in and sit down, 3, take out this thing called a key, 4, put the key in the hole there, 5, turn key to the right until engine makes a noise, 6, take this lever here and put it there, and so on and so on. But that is no way to learn how to drive a car because she hasn't the faintest idea of what she is doing and why. That is not the way I want you to learn the occult. I want you to know what you are doing and why you are doing it and what you are doing it for, and then to do it. And you will succeed in some degree at some time. So, if I say to you that I am not too sure about some of the finer points, I hope you will remember that I am just not a big blowhard, a big windbag that is out telling everybody, "Oh, come running to me and hand me your money and take my lessons because I know it all and everything is here," and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, I'll tell you, there like really is just nothing new under the sun, huh? Especially you read something like Marcus Aurelius, you read that's like 2,000 years ago almost. And it's like some of the stuff that he'll be writing about in there, you're just like, dude, really? Even back then? Yup. Oh, yeah. But that is no way. Oh, wait, I read that already. Come on. Here we go. Down here. Yeah. And I hope, too, that in the future you will examine very closely the claims of any other person who professes to teach you the occult. Yeah, some of you are going to be real bummed out when you find that some of the people you think are this or that are just kind of this and that, but that's all I'm going to say about that. If you find somebody that teaches it better and truer and more correctly than I do, you call me and I'll go look at them myself. I am not that proud, and neither should you be. Facts. There is one other thing. For heaven's sake, look out again. I have said this before and I'll repeat it again. Look out for these prophecies about the future and these occult nuts that go into trances and talk all kinds of gibberish. Like California is going to slide into the ocean and there is going to be a big war and there is going to be this and the second coming of Christ and of all of that stuff. Not one bit of that stuff has ever worked out and never will work out because whatever God is doing, he is not taking these people into his confidence. And then the other thing is, for heaven's sake, look out for metaphysical or spiritual or mental healings. They are very dangerous and are very misleading, and really nobody but a screwball is going to get up and tell you to abandon your medical treatment and come to him for some kind of a chewed hay or masticated hay or some kind of other thing. Chewed hay. Oh man, I don't know what that is, but I mean, it just sounds like snake oil by a different name, you know what I mean? But really, like, oh man, imagine that. Somebody's talking about buy up. Oh yeah, you have this hay. I chewed this hay, but it's okay because I was touched by the spirit. So my mouth, my mouth's got the spirit on it. Oh boy. Okay, not to get too off, but this is pretty funny. Now, of course, the health food faddists are not too bad. If you want to fool around with health food and eat vegetables, then I guess that's all right. But look out and don't let it get too far. A man has to eat a balanced diet of some kind. A man can eat many different kinds of food, and there are many foods, and food is food as long as it is pure and wholesome, and that twaddle about vegetables and things is just nothing. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't look out for overeating of sweets, and probably you ought to take it a little bit easy with the salt. If you could do without salt or very little salt, it would not be a very bad idea. I know what to say about the drinking, or I don't know what to say about the drinking. I have about 2 cocktails a year, and there is only one place around here that really serves it the way I like. And so take it easy and be moderate in all things. And that goes for just about everything connected with the occult. Yeah, because here's the thing. I really understand like the feeling of not just really being so clueless and like I don't know what I'm doing. This is all really confusing. What the heck are they talking? But like I've said, be patient with yourself. On the one, I do agree with Ophiel that like you should know what you're doing and why, but also that doesn't mean that you still shouldn't pretty quickly get up and start drawing out pentagrams, doing pentagram rituals, doing hexagram rituals, doing trying to cast spells, whatever. Just trying the stuff out, but while simultaneously maintaining a pretty solid pursuit of studies as well. It goes hand in hand because that's how you really figure this stuff out. But you can save your money in the process. You can, I mean, I would be lying if I said I haven't spent money doing little courses here and there, and pretty much all I learned from those courses was I can just do this without buying courses. But hey, that's me. Maybe the rest of you don't, maybe some of you have felt like you really need that stuff to benefit, to learn. And if that's the case, that's fine. But then if so, don't stay stuck there, because people get addicted too. I mean, all you have to do is talk to people who have like, a psychic is a great example. Somebody who's worked in like a psychic company, or does like readings all the time. You'll get customers that just get addicted to coming to you for a reading. You know what I mean? They don't ever do anything with it. They just come for another reading. Oh, okay, come for another, and they will fork over so much money, and zero of their problems get solved. And instead, it's like I will just teach you how to read tarot. You know what I mean? If you so there you can then you can read for yourself. I mean, there is something to be said about from time to time having somebody else do a reading for you because you can kind of get in your own way a little bit, but have a trusted reader if that's the case. Okay, let's get back into the book. The object of most of this dissertation about the elements simply means that you must begin to be thinking about when you do make a talisman that you have to put on it somewhere these elemental forces or symbols. That's not too hard to understand, is it? Now, again, I have to do a little bit of repeating to make some of this a little bit clearer than what I said before. It is true that these elemental forces do correspond to inner planes. But I wish to stop right there and not go any farther into that now because that is a subject for another book. And we are really dealing here with talismans. So I am going to change that a little bit and say, in making your talismans and putting upon the talismans the symbols of the elemental forces, you are a sort of a step ladder. I think you are like supposed to be like a sort of a step ladder, building a pathway, throwing up a rope, projecting some kind of pillar of force. The rope is a good idea. Remember, the sticky rope of the other books. You are building up a pathway into the inner planes, and then, of course, you are tapping the rich collection of forces, which are often expressed in ideas and feelings and emotions, to come down to you through the agency of a talisman that you are going to create in a planned manner, and also for a certain purpose. Now, what I have just said opens a huge new sphere of application for these talismans. I just can't give it all to you in this little book. Do you see what I am driving at? Well, take it from there yourself. Make your simple talismans and then make more complex ones and work on them. And don't drop everything in the world and start on it. Give it some thought of your lifetime attention and see what results you get. But the main point is to make talismans with certain things in mind. I will try to go into that towards the end of the book with some summing up at the end. but I am not going to be able to do more than give a sort of a stable outline. I trust that you will grab hold of this and take it from there. Now, don't get off on tangents. Try to stick to the rules that I lay down here for a long time, will you please? Don't go off on tangents. Okay, he did say that. I'm like, dude, did I read? Okay, don't go off on tangents of your own and get a lot of crazy ideas about talismans and some stuff like that. Act safe and sane. Do some sane occult work. Learn to do sane occult magical work. And I am sure your rewards will be something terrific. Yeah, shout out always, Dion Fortune. It was definitely so very great. She was very an amazing contribution to magic and occultism. And she wrote a book, Sane Occultism. Get that book, read that book, reread it. Now, I feel I should make mention here of another little subject. All of my work is based on the Kabbalah, which, of course, in the form I have it here, is basically Jewish. It's a pretty old Jewish system, too. It goes way, way back. It goes back to Babylon and Chaldea. Now, for the sake of clarity and understanding, I often refer to the Greek system of gods and goddesses. This is not done with any idea of setting up any form of worship of these gods and goddesses. I think that they were never really intended to be worshipped. Hmm, imagine that. I have a pretty good idea that that was true. Those were stories that were illustrations of the forces that played upon the physical plane through a system like the Kabbalah, and the Kabbalah system is in the Greek pantheon. I am not a worshiper of any of these gods and goddesses. And remember, I told you that they are only forces, and that should settle the matter. However, I am going to refer to these things from time to time, so keep it in mind that this is not any worship idea. It is merely for illustration and storytelling. I will say here that each of these inner planes has a god attached to it. And remember that this god is a force, as I said. I won't go too far into this now, but I will name a few. The god of the earth plane is Pluto. Pluto is that creature you see in illustrations with horns and bat's wings and a tail that has what looks like a spearhead on it and has animal hooves sometimes. There are no clear, distinct pictures of it. Excuse me. The old time artists use their fancy to impress people, but nevertheless, that creature is Pluto. And Pluto is not the devil. There isn't any devil. There isn't any Satan. I repeat, that creature is definitely not the devil. Now, the plane above this one, of course, is the etheric plane, followed by the astral plane. In the matter of Greek mythology, the distinction between these planes is not quite as sharp as the distinction I have just given it, which is more or less a Hindu idea. But this next area on up to the upper astral, we might say the mental plane, is ruled by Neptune. And Neptune, it is said, rules water, and the Greeks mistakenly gave him the idea of the oceans and the seas being water. But they don't mean that at all. The water, imagine that, huh? It's all a bunch of symbols. Wow. The water that Neptune rules is the water that I described to you that constitute the inner planes, which is also light, but it is a sort of a liquid light. That is the water that is ruled by Neptune. Or even, for the Satan crowd, for the left hand path, Leviathan, the beast of the sea, right? In Book of Revelations, it pops up out the sea. Whoa, maybe that's not actually the ocean. The plane above the water plane is where the astral light is the strongest and actually does look a little bit like fire, especially when it has some colors in it. And of course, That is the plane of fire, the elemental force of fire, and the ruler of that plane is named Hephaestus. But his Roman name was Vulcan, so we will call him Vulcan. He is the son of Jupiter, although in some other legends I have heard him referred to as a brother. He is the ruler of the elemental force of fire. Yeah, you find that a lot too when you look into the mythologies, is that they'll be sons and daughters, but they'll be siblings, or they'll be spouses, but they'll be siblings. Brother and sister are also husband and wife, and that doesn't mean that there's a bunch of incest going on with the gods, but there's, oh, I hope I don't get flagged for that. I don't care. What it it's to illustrate a symbological connection. The symbol of the fire plane is, of course, a triangle. The triangle will have to appear in your talismans. Now, for the time being, just keep these things in mind and see if you can find some additional material on these different god characters. Now we come to the plane of air, which is ruled by Zeus. The symbol of air is a circle, and round things are movable. As you know, wheels are round, everything that rolls or moves by itself. I don't mean man moving with his legs. I mean that things that move have wheels, and wheels are round, so a round circle is the symbol of air. Now, most of your talismans will have a circle in them, and that is because you want the talisman to be a moving thing. If you made a talisman completely of squares, you wouldn't have anything movable. But for heaven's sake, don't experiment on these different things now until you know more. As a rule, your basic talisman is round on the outside, and then these other symbols should be placed inwardly from it on down to the center. Actually, the center should be a square. Now we will refer briefly to the element of Akasha, the elemental force of Akasha, and that is a sort of a strange shape. It is like two convex curves of various sizes, but more likely to be a narrow one. I have never heard of it being used in a talisman, and if it has ever been used, it certainly hasn't been put down in any of the books that I have run across. I have an idea that it is not used in talismans at all, because the symbol itself represents nothing, no thing. And of course, you are not dealing with no things, you are dealing with some things. Also, in making these talismans, you can put on the talismans somewhere, on the talisman somewhere, the astrological symbol of the god that rules that particular plane again, but keep it distinctive in your mind so that it almost seems to be a distinction without a difference between the elemental force and plane. Okie dokie. So that concludes chapter 6. Now, what time is it? Okay, let's see. Let me take a look at this real quick. This one might be better saved. Oh, I guess it doesn't really matter. We're going into birth talismans. It's pretty short. Yeah, let's do it. Let's go ahead and do this one real quick, and then I'll show you these cool images too that'll come after it, because he's going to show us how to make a birth talisman. So then you'll be able to, that'll be a good way to finish it out. And then I'm sure that's where he is going to suggest, try, for the first one, try this. And then here's what it looks like. So then I'll show you all those color plates. They're also going to be in that PDF as well. It's linked. And then that gives you a fun thing to actually do, rather than just hear Ophiel and me say a bunch of things. Okay. Making a birth talisman. So I guess that would make this chapter 7. This section will contain diagrams consisting of a number of figures which are concerned, in this case, with your birth talisman, your astrological birth sign. Select the birth sign that pertains to you, but don't fail to study the others too. Get to know all of them. The object of your studying, learning, and then drawing and painting and completing your birth diagram is to acquaint you with the basics of talismans and to bring you into harmony with your birth sign. Heck yeah, all right, let's do it. Many people go through life quarreling with their birth sign, and that is definitely not a good idea because you are born stuck with that sign. I was indifferent to my sign for many years, and it was not until I began to study my sign and to come into close communion with it that I began to understand it and thus to benefit by it. I did not intend by the above words to be talking too much about astrology, but astrology is connected very intimately with you and everything about your day by day living. This book on talismans is, of course, an occult book of the self help, do it yourself kind of matter that the occult deals with. As such, Ophiel intends to give you occult knowledge in it that will benefit you in all ways. Ophiel has found talismans to be an occult tool to help you through life, and the study of astrology, which is another occult tool, to help you through life. And these two things can now be combined into one working magical tool, your birth talisman, understood and drawn and painted and made by you, yourself, for your own use. Incidentally, you can help other people make their birth talisman if you want to, but don't make their talisman for them as it tends not to do them any real good. All the ancient books say that your magical tools should be made by you and then used by you, and no one else can use them very well. I repeat, I had said previously that many people were slightly antagonistic towards their birth sign because of mostly ignorance or lack of knowledge about it, which lack of knowledge can be remedied at this point. Obviously, as you are stuck with a certain birth sign, it behooves you, instead of fighting it, to study your birth sign and get all the good out of it as well as avoiding or suppressing the negative aspects slash features of your birth sign. As you know, many people are born on the point where one sign changes into the other. And as you also know, this point is called the cusp. Of course, this means that you theoretically partake of the qualities of both signs to some degree. Apparently, if you are a few days over into the new sign or a few days from the new sign, there is also some modification. If you are chanced to be born on a cusp, I do not happen to be born on a cusp. Me either. I mean, I'm kind of close, but I'm not on the cusp. You can understand that you can make two talismans then for your birth talisman and study both of them and learn all you can about both of them. There are a number of confusing looking facts which will arise probably at this point if you are really thinking deeply about this forthcoming work. If you have had any astrology, you know almost quite certainly that the astrological signs are ruled by certain planets. You also know that certain planets rule two signs. For example, Mars rules Aries and Scorpio, Mercury rules Gemini and Virgo. And fun fact, Virgo is the only sign that's ruled and exalted by the planet, which is Mercury. Jupiter rules Sagittarius and Pisces. The moon and the sun, however, rule one sign alone. The sun rules Leo and the moon rules Cancer. Oh, yeah. When I first went into the occult years ago, Saturn also ruled Aquarius. Now, however, I noticed that Aquarius is attributed to Uranus. You check up on that and see which one appeals to you. But for this book, I will use the old one that I am familiar with. Saturn will rule Capricorn and Aquarius. Yeah, that's the way I look at it, is that Saturn rules Capricorn and Aquarius. In this study of your talisman, you should draw and paint it in two colors. The colors for a birth talisman are the colors of the planet that rules it, the main color, and the complementary color. Actually, it is a little more complicated than, I'm pretty sure that's supposed to be than this, not that this. But I don't think that on the first round of talisman making, we will go into the finer points. The planets which rule two signs will have on the talisman some indication of the elemental nature of the astrological signs. For example, Aries is a fire sign, Mars, a fire planet. So the talisman, as shown, is basically correct. Mars also rules Scorpio, and Scorpio is a water sign. So the Scorpio birth talisman should have on it somewhere some indicator of the water part as well as the fire part. I wish to get you started now, and I think you will find the simple talisman outlined here will give you a good link to your birth complex setup of forces. That's what we are aiming for, at least in this first set of birth talismans. Take a drink real quick. Shout out to whoever's been rocking with me today. I don't know who. I see you there, but I don't know who it is. But you've been there pretty steadily, so much love to you. Okay. Each of the pages with a birth talisman on it at the end of the chapter will consist of the following. Pardon me. At the top of the page will be the name of the astrological sign. In this case, I am looking at the name Aries. Immediately under the name Aries is a representation of the astrological symbol. In this case, it resembles a ram's horns. Now, we will go to the bottom of the page. That's the lower right-hand bottom. And there is the symbol of the planet that rules Aries. In this case, it is Mars. Incidentally, this Mars symbol here consists of a circle with an arrow-like thing pointing off at a 45-degree angle. Well, actually, that arrow is supposed to be a circle with a cross above it. It is just the opposite of Venus, but somehow this upper cross got changed over into this arrow like symbol. You look it up yourself and see where and when this happened. The research will do you good. Right above the planetary symbol on the bottom are three squares containing figures, lines, various shapes, and forms and sizes. I am not going to go into the exact origin or meanings of these. They are called signatures. All you have to do for now is to put them on the talisman, your birth talisman. They will work automatically. Returning to the top of the page, the left-hand side, you will find a finished talisman containing all the signs slash figures that are found separately on the page. This is the completed birth talisman for that sign. How it looks when everything you need is included. As I said before, your first work in making talismans will be to make, draw, and paint your birth talisman. However, being as these talismans are extremely potent, you shouldn't let anybody else see them. It will be necessary for you to practice and learn how to get these diagrams down on first paper on parchment. Maybe even still later to learn to engrave them on metals. Do remember, however, that the talisman is a focal point for your attention, and gentle concentration and all the real work is done by and through your subconscious mind contacting the inner planes, wherein exists the astral light, which is the real doer, as is stated and taught elsewhere in this book. It won't really matter too much if your artwork isn't too salubrious as long as it is you, your personality. And then again, most of the lines in the talisman can be made with a compass and ruler, which it will be necessary for you to gain a little bit of experience with. Don't be afraid to make a lot of experiments with this. I still spoil things. The dozens of times that I have made some things, I still spill ink on them and spoil them, and that is just part of the game. If you have a great deal of trouble drawing and making a talisman, that is a sort of indication that there are some difficulties on the inner planes, even standing between you and the objects you are making the talisman for. Keep that in mind. So you should pay strict attention to those mistakes and see what they act like and how they happen. A great deal of your opposition, if any, can be worked out right on the drawing you are making. Then, if these mistakes persist, it will call for an examination on your part to see what is really wrong. You will need to start most of the following materials. 1. A drawing set, a small one will do. 2. A paint set, watercolor. 3. At least 3 good brushes, pardon me, badger hair. 4. Ruler, gum eraser, drawing ink. All right, we don't want to cheat it. We don't want to give that away too quick. We'll be right to it though. 5. Watercolor pans. 6. Probably a small drawing board. The 12 talismans shown here are not too perfect, nor do they have to be. The talismans are to be representatives of yourself, not of me or someone else. They are to be of you and by you. The sample talismans are colored, but you can color them in your own manner. You only use the correct colors. But in the case of a sign ruled by a god who also rules another sign of a different elemental force, when you understand and feel more, then add some of that other elemental force color into the talisman somewhere. Also, you can look up some other additional signs that are connected with the different gods and the different forces and add them in the right places. I do not mean to hustle you to buy my books or the books we sell, but sooner or later you should buy The Golden Dawn by Israel Regardie, now in 2 volumes. I bought mine, and nowadays it's just in the one big brick volume. But I know I think that's funny because yesterday I saw someone I follow who it's a bookstore, and they got like that older, probably around this 70s era 2 volume Golden Dawn. So if you're a little bit of a collector, here's the thing. I would not really recommend doing that though, because as time goes on and books get reprinted and revised, often they improve. So every once in a while, it is beneficial to go back and get maybe like the original pressing, but unless you're like a collector, I would just recommend getting like the most up to date version because it's often going to be the best version. Okay, I bought mine years ago and I use it constantly for reference. I have also included a useful book list at the back of this book, listing those books which I think will help you in your occult studies. Okie dokie. Now, the moment we've been waiting for. So, we're going to go through and you'll get to see all of these color plates for these different astrological talismans. Probably when you see yours for your sun sign, go ahead and pause it, give it a screenshot. But like I said, it should also be in that PDF that's linked. So whichever of those ways you prefer, you might get a little bit better. I don't know. I guess it just depends on which way you would get the better quality. I think maybe the PDF, but I don't know, depending on your phone and resolution and all that. Okay, so anyway, first we have here Aquarius. Like he said, you can see down here you got Saturn, the symbol for Aquarius here. Boom, boom. Sick. These are so sick. Okay, Pisces, the goat for sure. No, well, Capricorn's the goat, but this is, the modern day goat. Greatest of all time, Pisces. Much love to you. Okay. Aries. There's for my Aries. And so I know this one I recognize. So these ones here should be, so even though that's the symbol of Mars, that's like the sigil of Mars. Taurus. Okay. Gemini. All right then, Gemini. Okay. Cancer. Leo. Virgo. Libra. Or Libra. I don't know, however you say it. Scorpio. Okay. Sagittarius. All right then. And then last but certainly not least, Capricorn. All right. Sick. So that puts us at charging a talisman. Oh yeah, that's a pretty long one. Oh, and that's about the end, charging a talisman and then recapitulation. So yeah, we'll just finish up those last two on the next session since we're already rolling about hour and 40 minutes. But that one was fun. That one was sick. I'm really liking this book. This is cool. Ophiel has some cool information. That's for sure. Some good information. Forget being cool. Who cares about that, dude? It's about truth, baby. And then that image too, take a good look at that. That one's really cool. I love it. That's half the reason I decided to just get the physical book was because I really like this artwork here on the front. See, he's got Yod, Hey, Vav, Hey in there. Here for the playing cards, even spades, clubs, hearts, diamonds. And then other than that, he's got those astrological. So here, in my heaviest realm of water, Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces, Gemini, the twins, sick, the water bearer, Libra with the scales, Aquarius, the goat. Some of those really can give you more perspective too, even if you look more into them, because like Aquarius being like that watery air, pouring the water, but it's an air sign, right? Capricorn, the goat, but also is often depicted as a sea goat. So it looks like a mermaid goat. Leo, Sagittarius, the archer. Oh wait, that wouldn't be Capricorn. That one's Aries. My bad. Silly me. Duh, that's fire. That one's Capricorn. That one's Capricorn. Oh, it is as a sea goat. Nice. Really awesome. I like that. Virgo, and then Taurus. Duh, the bull. Taurus. Dad. Love you, Dad. Okay, fam. Well, for all of you who were rocking with me on this session, many appreciation to you. Much appreciation to you. Many thanks. That's what I was trying to say. New tongue. Still working out the kinks. Just kidding. Much love for you guys. Yeah, that was good timing for me too, because now it's gonna be busy. I'm gonna go work. I'm gonna go get that cheddar. For any of you who are doing the same, good for you. Way to be responsible. Way to be focused on Malkuth, Prithivi, and the material plane, where we can have fizzy burps. Thank you, Santa. Saint Nick, don't forget, that was a saint originally, man. Saint Nicholas. Everybody talk about that's an egregore. Man, that's a saint. Anyway, oh, my bookmark. All right, well, we'll come back for charging a talisman and then the recapitulation, and then we've done it. We'll have be done by that point, and then we will be on to the next. Oh boy, what do I have in store for you after that? I haven't even decided yet. I've got a couple ideas tossed around my head. I mean, obviously, Book of Five Rings, but I'm just gonna continue uploading that as regular uploads because I know that can be good for promoting the channel as well. Oh, nice. Another new subscriber. Thanks to whoever did that. And yeah, so the next live book read I'm going to do, I haven't decided on yet. If you have suggestions, let me know. But it's not like I'm going to listen to it. Just kidding, I might. Maybe your suggestion is one of the ones I'm contemplating on. So I'll be like, shoot, well, I was already considering that. And now so and so said that book would be awesome to do on a live stream. So then there you go. That's a double whammy. And yeah. All right, then. That's enough of that. Enough rambling. Much love to you all. Many blessings. This has been Jay Valdell. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Be sure to quit resisting nature. See you next time. Bye bye.